All right, folks, I have Carmine Paolino, the author of RubyLLM. Carmine, I love everything about that name.
Thank you. So, hi, everybody. I'm Carmine Paolino. I am indeed the author of RubyLLM and also the author of Chat with Work, which is an AI assistant for your workplace. And this is where RubyLLM was actually extracted from. So my journey started really early. I started at the age of around 5 by writing my first batch script, so not real programming, but just something really easy to get into the folders of my favorite games. And then after that, I just love computers. You know, they were the coolest thing that I could possibly find. They were the most interesting thing that I could possibly find. And it felt like magic. So after that, I did a lot of things. So I studied actually computer science, obviously, in university. And there, at my last project, I discovered Ruby. But not because I was asked to, but because, well, my professor wanted us to use PHP. And I was like, hell no, we're not going to use PHP for our project. And this is because this was 2009 at the time, and I was reading Hacker News, and Ruby was all over Hacker News all the time.
Yep.
It was great. Long story short, like we did our project in Ruby. We fell in love with Ruby. Some of our teammates actually, which used to know PHP, they went into Ruby jobs after that. I instead did a master in AI. And so I used Python for the last decade or more, actually. And well, I did a lot of things in Python, especially in modeling of AI models. So I was a machine learning scientist and engineer. I was a little bit in research too, in big companies, in small companies, in consultancies, all kinds of little things. I even started my own company in 2021, which helps supermarkets, reduce their waste, their food waste, because we order the right amount of food using AI. That was all Python, AI, microservices. And now I started something all by myself, not VC backed, just bootstrapped. And since I could choose whatever I wanted to do and I could do it in the technology that I wanted to do, I obviously chose Ruby. And that's Chat with Work. And then what I noticed is that I didn't find the libraries that I wanted to use out there. So there was nothing that really fit my taste. And so I decided to build my own. And that's how Chat with Work actually started.
So what does Chat with Work exactly do?
So Chat with Work is an AI assistant for your workplace. Essentially, it has the same interface as ChatGPT, but you can chat with your documents. So it has a bunch of tools. It has a search tool, a read tool, a list tool for example, Google Drive. And in the future, I'm going to expand it with multiple other services, connectors like Slack, like GitHub, like Teams, like OneDrive potentially, so that you can ask any questions about any of the files that you have or any of the chats that you have in these workplace software.
Awesome. So it's looking at your own data, your own files, and it's context aware of your firm, right? Your enterprise.
Yeah, that's right.
And from that, you extracted RubyLLM.
That's right. So I was looking at the space of libraries. I didn't find anything that really fit the bill. And so I built my own. And well, it turns out that a lot of people had the same exact wish that I had because it had a pretty bombastic response when I launched it. I never expected any of that, but it turns out that the taste and the kind of style of programming that I, infused into RubyLLM is exactly what people were expecting out of a Ruby library that can help you talk with AI.
Yeah, you made #1 repo of the day on GitHub. That's actually how I found you. It's
cool.
Really impressive. It was all over the place, man.
Yeah, thank you. And I think it's because I made it for myself, right? So that's the secret sauce. And I made it in a way that I wanted to use it. So for example, the chat interface is really simple. It's just rubyllm.chat. And that's how you instantiate a new chat. And then you can do chat.ask. And you can ask any questions to the AI. And notice that I'm not specifying a model. I'm not specifying a provider. I'm not instantiating an object that represents a provider. I'm not doing any complicated put the human message inside the array of messages and then send that array. None of that. Who wants to do that? Right. I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
So I just want to chat with an AI, and I want to focus on what's really important in chatting with an AI, which is the actual prompts. It is not like, how is OpenAI structuring their data set? Who cares? Like, no one does.
I wouldn't even want to know that, right? That level of detail.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the philosophy that made RubyLLM possible. And also you can then have all kinds of other little nuggets of pleasure when you use RubyLLM, because now it's one interface and you can use it with whatever other APIs that are out there. So whether or not you're using Anthropic or OpenAI or OpenRouter or Gemini or Vertex AI or any of the 11 supported providers that we have at the moment, you don't have to know anything about the underlying details of the actual chat. And we do all of the translation ourselves. And it's very simple. It's basically made of two parts, right? So there is the RubyLLM Ruby interface, right? So with all of the messages that are Ruby objects, the attachments are Ruby objects, all of that, clear, plain Ruby. And then we have the providers, and the providers have an adapter interface. So then you can, you can develop your own provider really easily. And they're basically comprised of two types of functions. They are like the parse functions and the render functions. So the parse functions, they parse whatever the provider outputs, and the render functions, they render to the provider, whatever we have in the RubyLLM objects. So we do that translation every single time we communicate with a provider. And that allows us to even have this little magic thing that I like to say all the time, which is to even change the provider and the model during a conversation. Because all of the conversation is actually saved in plain old Ruby objects in RubyLLM.
So if you switch models and providers, you're able to, how does it work? You feed it back the whole conversation so it has the context?
That's right. Yeah. That's how most APIs actually work right now. There's only one API that doesn't work like that right now, which is the Responses API by OpenAI. But all of the other ones, you have to send the entire conversation.
The entire chat.
Yeah.
Interesting. And I imagine that's helpful if you're, I don't know, trying to stay under your token usage limit for a certain provider, right?
Yeah. So even for me, actually, it was really cool to have that feature, because I wanted to test a different model while being in the same conversation. So when I was selecting the models that I wanted to use, I started to chat maybe with one model, and then I was not really pleased with their output. So I was like, why can't I just use the same chat but with a different model? And that's how also that feature came about. And in terms of token usage, I mean, you can also switch around between models. So for example, if you exhaust the tokens for a specific model, then you can switch around to another one that is perhaps a bigger context window, and then you're going to be fine. So that's also correct.
Interesting. So I'm assuming I can install this just as a gem in my Rails app or Sinatra app?
That's right. Yeah. So you can just put it in your gem file, bundle install, and then we also have a Rails integration and some generators that are going to help you to connect it all together.
No, wow. That's so you're actually set up to be a first-class Rails citizen.
That's right. Yeah. So basically, the Rails integration is built on top of the callbacks. So every time we have a new message or there's a new chunk, we actually pass it to the Rails integration. So it's using RubyLLM features inside RubyLLM in order to build the Rails integration. And that allows us to have a very, very short amount of code for the Rails integration. And on top of that, we have all the migration generators so that you can create your models that have all the different fields that we require. And then in the end, in your controllers, you just have acts as, let's say, chat, if it's a chat, or acts as message, if it's a message. And so it wires up everything together with RubyLLM. So you don't have a large amount of code in your app. It looks nice. It does exactly kind of what you expect if you use the conventions that we have. And you can also wire it up in different ways in case you have namespace models and things like that.
Nice.
On top of that, we also have a chat UI, which is admittedly and also on purpose not the prettiest. it's similar to, a Rails generator. So it just has the basics, right? And it can get you started. So actually in 2 minutes or less, you can go from 0 to having a Rails app with a chat UI in RubyLLM. And it uses just a plain old vanilla Rails, which is plenty. So we have support for Hotwire and Turbo directly in that generator. And again, it's a minimal amount of code.
Awesome. So it sounds like if you're writing, let's say, an internal, I don't know, ERP system, right, in Rails for an enterprise, you could just set this up, set up the generators, set up the models, point it to whatever document store they have. And your end users don't even have to know what's going on. They just see a chat interface that looks like the rest of the application. And I imagine you could do anything, right? Let's say you have, give me the sales numbers on avocados for the last quarter or something like that, right?
Right. Well, in that case, you will need to wire up some tools. So LLMs in the chat UI are just LLMs by themselves. They don't have any system prompt. They don't have any tools attached to them. So you're basically going to chat with an LLM, just like you go to chatgpt.com. But this time in your own interface, which makes it really cool and interesting. And you can put it wherever you want, as you said. Now, if you want to interact with your data, what you need to do is to create tools. Or at least one of the ways that you could do it is to create tools that then you can give to the LLM to actually use. And this is actually how I built Chat-with-Work as well. So at the moment, I have the search tool for Google Drive, which enables the LLM to search in Google Drive. But the LLM is going to decide when it's going to use that tool and how to use that tool. So which keywords should it use, which other arguments should it use, etc. And that's why I think the most important part of AI development and the philosophy behind RubyLLM is that it teaches you to not think too much about the grunt details of the API of the specific provider, but just think about the description of the tool. Think about the description of the parameters of the tool. Think about your system prompts, right? Because these are the most important things that you should think about when you develop an AI, because these are the things that determine ultimately how useful that AI is going to be for you. And so I developed a little DSL for making tools, and you can basically specify it in a very simple way. All of the documentation is on RubyLLM.com. So if people want to check it out, how to do that, I think that's the best. It's probably easier to go there than for me to just spill out some Ruby in a podcast.
I think it would probably be easier. Yeah, and I saw you have a params DSL, which looks, man, this looks really good. Just like it feels like a very, very Ruby styled, Ruby-esque, I guess is the way you would say that.
Right.
DSL,
yeah. Thank you. That's what I wanted to do. So I didn't find anything out there that was very Ruby-like, and ultimately I'm back to Ruby after many, many years because
wandering in the woods.
Yeah. Ruby has been, out of all the programming languages that I've used, the one that I really fell in love with, and I just wanted to
stick with it. I love Ruby too. So my main products are written in Ruby. I'm coming from more of an Objective-C background, more of a mobile background, and the first time I picked up Rails, it was like, oh, so this doesn't have to be horrible.
Right. Exactly. As I felt the same. I felt that Rubyists really understood how people want to write programs instead of how machines want to write programs.
Right. And you can always drop down, right? You could write your own SQL queries and stuff like that. But my listeners have heard me go on for 14 years now about how much I like Ruby. So I'll let it go. All right. So Carmine, we always end with one question. It's a little weird.
Mm-hmm.
What is one tool? Doesn't have to be a dev tool. It just can't be something that you make, that you can't live without. I'll give you the last 3 examples. One guy said an electric bike. One guy said some kind of espresso maker. And another guy said a coffee heating thing for his desk. The beverage-based things are very popular. Just, I don't know why.
I guess developers is a very good question because I have a few.
Oh, go ahead.
I would say the latest one is my 3D printer.
Well, okay. What are you printing?
printing a lot of things, little things that I need for the house, things I could never solve in another way in the house. Then I would just like fire up FreeCAD and make it. Or maybe there is already a model out there. And yeah, it's been a fantastic experience actually having a 3D printer. It's just for the last 3 weeks, so quite new. But
you're very, I love mine. I have an older one, but I tell you, if you need just like a little clip for something that broke, great. Do it all the time.
Exactly. And then the other one would be, I guess, Codex.
I'm not familiar.
Oh, so OpenAI's Claude Code replacement.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
So of course, being in AI, I've been also using AI. I have to say my experience with other like Claude Code style CLIs has been hit or miss. I think each LLM has its own personality, and that's a thing that people now understand, I think, but it's really important to be reminded of that. And in Claude Code, for example, it would do something very, very creative, very complicated in a very cool way, but it's not necessarily the right way. And I think Codex is much better at understanding exactly what you want to do and exactly how you want to do it. And it does a lot of research before. So it feels more like the type of assistant that I would use, which is more like I tell exactly what to do, and then it has to do it exactly in the way that I want to.
Right. No going on.
If I code me this, I'm very much specific, and I like to read every single line of code and stuff like that. So for me, it's important.
Makes perfect sense to me. Well, Carmine, where can people find you online? We'll put it in the show notes.
Right. So it's paolino.me. So it's paolino.me. That's my blog. Or x.com/Paolino, which is still the same as my surname. And github.com/CRMNE, which I guess some people do know already.
Sounds good. Well, thank you for coming on.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.